later on in connection with the Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. A big day, big
Charlie's
night
clearing
tonight.
his throat.
Charlie, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Those are legal books behind you, or are they something other than legal?
James Bond novels.
They would be used about as much if they were James Bond novels, I can promise you.
There you go. How often do you have to update your book? Do you get an annual update every year, an addendum attached to that every year?
Yeah, we pay for an annual update. I'm not sure why anymore, because everything's online these days.
That's true. That's very, very well. It's because they got to make money on it. Come on. Look, tell me a little bit about this. You are watching this in a different perspective than most people because you did go to school with her at Notre Dame. But tell me a little bit about Judge Barrett that maybe we don't know.
Well, I think the thing that is probably the most interesting to me about Amy is that we tend to assume that most people who rise to this level are somewhat political creatures. I think the thing that would surprise most people is how apolitical she is. She doesn't care for the Biden side, the MAGA side, so to speak. She is just one who is really very much a jurist. She is a student of the law. And so I think back to when we were in law school and we were sitting around arguing about whether Bill Clinton should win the election or who should be our next president. Amy was off studying constitutional theory. She is one who just sees it as it comes and not from any political viewpoint at all.
She was grounded in that by her parents, but that she understands the importance of the Constitution and has that in her DNA. I want that. I want that more than her leaning left or right. Because one of the things we've seen, it seems like everybody that we thought was right often is going to disappoint you one way or the other. And I don't think it's like, okay, that ruling did not go the way you wanted to. They're off the bandwagon. I just see it wondering if there was a reason for that. And I think Amy Barrett, Judge Barrett's going to be one of those people. If she makes a decision that goes contrary, I have enough faith in her to believe that that's the way she interpreted as the meanings from the Constitution.
She's one of the most fundamentally principled people that I've ever met. I indicated to somebody we were talking the other day, a lot of times we tend to start with the outcome that we want and we work backwards and find the justification for it. She is the opposite. She starts with the question, she looks at the principles, and however it plays out is how it plays out. She can live with the result. And one of the problems with legal decisions is they don't always fit very well in a media soundbite. They don't fit a headline very well.
True.
You can take, for example, she has issued opinions that in a soundbite could say, Amy Barrett issues ruling hostile to police. Well, it wasn't that it was hostile to police. It was applying the law to the actions that they took. And that's the problem. When you take a 15-page opinion and try to turn it into a half of a sentence headline, it doesn't always fit. The thing that I am very confident about is she will apply the law and not go off making law.
You guys still stay in touch?
Yeah, we do periodically. A little more difficult sometimes when a person's a federal judge and has 7 kids. You can imagine what her daily life is like. But she hasn't changed. She is one of the most fundamentally decent and good human beings that I've ever been around. And with the rise up the system and the structure, that's one of the things I really appreciate as a practicing lawyer is having someone on the bench who has that temperament, who has that demeanor, who knows what it's like to go home and deal with kids and all the other things that come at you in life.
Well, she seemed to handle it quite well as far as you're counting the grimaces on her face and everything. And certainly when there were a lot of things that touched her nerves, and they had to as far as her family, her religion, and other things that she holds dearly. But she seemed to do a great job on this one. It was almost like the left kind of shot all of their ammo in the Brett Kavanaugh, and even the left didn't have any appetite by doing this again.
It looked that way. And the other thing, too, if you go back, it was just a couple of years ago when she was confirmed to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals and went through a very similar process. And I think one of the things that they learned was that the attacks on her religion did not play very well.
Yep.
The comments that Senator Feinstein made critical of her religion still haunt that side. And I think they were very calculated not to create a political issue that would be viewed as a religious war, and to try to avoid that with her this time.
You know, it was kind of interesting, and a sidebar here, and I know you're following the medical marijuana too, but I didn't ask you, where's your office? What city is your office in?
I'm in Starkville.
You're in Starkville. Does she have any connection with Mississippi State that you know of? I'm sorry,
well, not directly.
Any connection with the state of Mississippi, I should say.
Well, yes. In fact, some of her best friends are in the state of Mississippi. Amy grew up in New Orleans, went to school in Rhodes at Memphis, and so she was, as most Memphis people are, kind of very tied to North Mississippi as well. And so Amy has been to Mississippi a lot, and like I said, some of her best friends still live in this area, some of her childhood friends.
So you're going to be watching tonight?
Oh, absolutely. It's a little bit surreal. I told my wife I'm getting up, going to work in Starkville, and one of my best friends from law school is going to the Supreme Court. Quite a different day for the two of us.
Well, what were your feelings when you saw in the committee all of the Democrats walked out and boycotted her?
Well, it wasn't terribly surprising, because I think the thing for me that just as a practicing lawyer is a little bit sad is that we like to view our judiciary as being independent of the political sphere, of having some own independence and not being caught up in the political process. And it's really sad, and I mean this as with respect to both parties, that our Supreme Court selections have moved to this political theater where people are putting up billboards and anticipating rulings that may or may not even come in an attempt to cast aspersions on someone. The bottom line is, if we are looking for someone who is good and decent and qualified, this is one of the best people that we've ever found.
The other part of this is, regardless of who's coming in January, as far as going to be sworn in as president, there is a real possibility of 1, 2, maybe even 3 in the next couple of years, because age is a factor. And there are some rumors that there are some people getting tired and want to quit a little bit early. So I don't know, but it'll be interesting to find out, and the makeup. But then you have all of this overshadowing that the Democrats are talking about, packing the court, and that's a whole new ballgame. We have no idea what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's a little bit scary to me, is this idea of, if we don't like it, let's change the rules. And I think both parties, let me be fair, can be criticized for that, and certainly have been. But, we go back 150 years with a 9-person Supreme Court, and the idea of just changing that because we do or don't like the balance of it is something that's frightening to me. And I think frightening just in terms of, one of the most important things about law is having some certainty. And the more that we tinker with the system, the less certainty we have. And I think that ultimately is bad for everyone.
Well, I think in one term, the Supreme Court, again, you talk about Venezuela, but in one term, a Supreme Court could handle enough cases that you have 54 states in the Union, you have Electoral College gone, you have New York and California, East Coast, West Coast, making the decisions on every campaign, and you have a one-party system, and it could happen before you know it in this country with a packed court. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're just being naive.
And that's exactly the reason that I like judges like Amy Coney Barrett, because she is not one who believes in creating law by fiat, by having this unelected body responsible to no one with life tenure, able to set up and effectively rule the country based on its own preferences, to act as a super legislature. And that's the thing that's scary about having activist judges, and why I think we need her.
Well, now when you get together for a reunion or something, you got to be careful what you say. It's going to be a different. It's good to meet you, sir, and good to talk to you. And I thank you for sharing this with us, Charlie Winfield. Charlie, thank you, man. Appreciate it very much.